another video feature of the Immersive Hills Handbook. Today I'm in Portland, Oregon at Kontrol Arcade and Bar, and we're going to get ready here to play ACDC. Okay, I'll make you wait to see what happens with the pinball machine, but I was thinking recently how there is a certain level of nostalgia that we certainly associate with video games. If you saw the Emmy-winning Black Mirror episode, San Junipero, there's a use of video games in that film, in that episode of Black Mirror that I think is very interesting in terms of stressing nostalgia and memory and so forth. That being said, there have been many examples of connecting video games with either bars or eateries or both, as is the case with Ground Control here in Portland. I think it's an opportunity to use nostalgia and memory and also the fun associated with video games to draw in more customers. Entrepreneur did an article about this very phenomenon. I'm also thinking of the growth in adult arcade-like entertainment in venues like Dave & Buster's, and this is different than Dave & Buster's. It's only the classic video games. Here's another article from Eater magazine that talks about this same tendency. If you Google arcade bars in the United States, there are a slew of them across the country. I noticed quite a few on the West Coast. Maybe that's not a surprise. There tend to be maybe more theme bars on the coast. It just kind of depends, but this is an example, I think, of a bar that does bring in the curiosity, nostalgia, memory we associate with the era of classic video games and uses it to theme its bar. So the premise here, it's in Chinatown, Ground Control, in Portland, Oregon. And when you walk in, if you come in after, I think it's 5 o'clock or so, there's a person at the door and you have to show your ID. Earlier in the day, families can come in, so kids can come as well, which is smart. In 2010, they remodeled much of the bar, and many people describe it as a more Tron aesthetic to it. The classic look of Tron that's been used in, of course, the movies, video games, and also a test track down at Orlando's Epcot. So here are some of the still shots inside the bar. I'll take you with some of the video as well. And one of the curious things is there are quite a few games in here. I remember as a kid going to arcades, loving arcades immensely. And so for me, it did bring back those memories. But they had quite a few games here, as I'll show you, that I had never seen before. So that's an interesting thing, too, is to try to create new memories, associations, by showing us some games we've never maybe seen in the past. This is just the main bar area, and you could see some of the design, and apologize for my finger getting in the camera. I was kind of sloppily walking through trying to capture some video, and you kind of get the idea, though. It's not a huge venue, certainly, but it's one I think that has interspersed its spaces with the various video games and also the pinball machines. You see the bar there, you see the seating area, the pinball machines. And indeed, you could bring quarters in, as I did, to play pinball or play the video games, which itself is kind of, I would almost say, a nostalgic moment, because we're not usually used to using quarters in consumer spaces, including casinos, anymore. Okay, and we're looking at here the room of the bar that is just right before you, right after you walk in the door, you take a right. You could see the Pac-Man machine there. This is a classic. I didn't play it, but I remember as a kid, you could see the screen is flickering, which might just be the frame rate. But a lot of these have a classic look, even obviously in terms of the display and everything. But Dragon's Lair for me was a great game I remember as a kid. So this is going back ages and ages and ages. And I can't imagine, what's involved in the maintenance and the working on these machines when they break and stuff, and that definitely would have to be an art. This one here I'd never seen before. This looks like a Japanese company that produced this. Didn't get to try it, but Panic Park, so I'd never seen this one before. It's kind of curious in terms of the control here on the game with the levers and so forth. So again, really emphasizing that sense of nostalgia, I think, that we often associate with the classic era of video games. And it's a good thing to draw on, certainly, if you want to theme your venue. Again, I would argue that the theming here is limited, I think, to the presence of the games, and then you do get that one rather dramatic video screen in the main bar area, as well as a little bit of that so-called Tron theming you see throughout the spaces of the bar. And so I think we can maybe now finish up looking at the footage, and we'll go back to me playing the AC/DC pinball game. I took out the audio. It's just basically the sounds of pinball, right? So it's all the sound effects, and it's the pinball hitting up and down. I am absolutely atrocious at pinball, so this is hard to watch. I'm trying to film it and play at the same time, which is never easy, and I think I'm actually a little bit better than is reflected here. Not to say I'm good at all, but when you're trying to film and play pinball, the two really don't work. So either you bring a tripod, or what a pathetic showing, right? Or you I don't know. I guess that's your only option. You'd have to bring a tripod or bring a friend to film your pinball game. So that is pretty bad as well. So we'll just continue to watch me playing pinball and losing miserably. But it is a nostalgic tour, right? Down memory lane for many of us to look at these classic games that we see here at Ground Control. You know, I would be curious to look into their marketing and see how well they're doing. I think they were pretty highly rated on Yelp, but you know, the only thing, it seems to me that this would attract a specific audience, and I'm wondering, you know, if it would be boomers or millennials or what sort of generation. And then the second thing would be is if some people wouldn't want to go to a bar like this because maybe not the association necessarily of video games, but just the sound, the fact that it's kind of loud. If you watch my video on Level Up at the MGM in Las Vegas, you'll note that there's a new tendency, I think, in pop culture to use video games and adult entertainment in some interesting ways in terms of marketing. So this could essentially be the future as much as it is a reflection on the past and nostalgia here at Ground Control. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video feature here today, looking at some nostalgia here at Ground Control, the arcade bar in Portland, Oregon. Please come back for additional video features of the Immersive Worlds Handbook.